Hey guys, Prowl1701 here, and today I'm going to be continuing my video series where I have been ranking all of modern Doctor Who from worst to best, which is about 150 stories, so I've broken it into segments. It'll be a 4-part series. This is part 3. If you'd like to, if you haven't seen parts 1 and 2 and you want to start with part 1, you can check it out. But we're going to continue on, and at number 70 on the list is The Husbands of River's Song. This is a good one. I like it a lot. It's nice to have kind of a nice happy ending for River. It doesn't quite make sense with how events play out in Silence of the Library for me. It doesn't quite line up properly because it seems more like they had one night together, not 22 years or however long it was. So it doesn't quite line up properly, but it's a Christmas special. I don't mind it kind of having the fairy tale ending. It is sweet. I like River and Capaldi together. Nardole is a bit irksome in this one. He's better later, but he's a bit irksome in this one. Not bad, but he is. The villain is a little generic, but he's fine. Again, this one's meant to be, I think, a little silly in places. I do love the bits on the ship with the Doctor and with River. That's pretty good. It does take River a little too long to figure out that's the Doctor for me. I feel like, as sharp as River is, she should have caught on to that sooner. But it's still neat, and when she does realize, it's a very tender scene. I do love, the chemistry between them. It's a good story. It's a nice Christmas special and a happy ending for River, which I like. I'm glad she gets her long night with the Doctor, even again if it doesn't make sense with Silence in the Library completely to me. Next on the list is Eve of the Daleks. Now, I tend to like the Chibnall Dalek stories. Yeah, I said that. They tend to be pretty good. Resolution, Revolution, and Eve are all, I think, good stories and good Dalek stories. He seems to get the Daleks better than Moffat, for sure. I love Groundhog Day, the movie Groundhog Day, I do. So I tend to like the trope of things repeating. I love the added wrinkle, though, that the loop is getting shorter each time. That's a neat little twist. I'm definitely going to give props to the writing for that. I like that. So it gives a sense of urgency to the surroundings because they don't have infinite loops to get it right, like, say, Bill Murray does. They are on a ticking clock still. I enjoy that. I think the performances are good. I love the scene when they find the one guy's storage room and it's a little creepy to him. And he's like, oh, I keep all my ex-girlfriend's stuff here. And they're like, oh, are they alive? And he's like, yes, of course. And they're like, because we as an audience are also going, that's kind of funny. That was funny to me. I like both of the guest actors. They're both really good. I know the female one, I think she's a comedian in real life. But they're both really good together. They have fairly good chemistry together. It's nice to see how antagonistic she is toward him at the beginning, but how he grows on her. It's like, you gave your life to save me. Well, yeah. That's pretty neat. I love that bit when the Dalek's like, don't move. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to move. The way he says that line, I love it. The bit when he ducks and the Daleks shoot each other is a little tropey, but I still liked it. I still loved it. It is kind of funny, and it doesn't really bother me. I just think it's funny how the Daleks have the new Gatling guns, which I love and want to see back, but they can't hit anything from a lot of the times. Like, they keep missing. I love that. Is it odd for a Dalek to be missing that much down these narrow corridors? Yes. But for some reason, I just find it hilarious. Now, Whittaker has some decent moments in this. Her try-hard speech doesn't work. Her speech where she does the, we come together, we try again, I'm not buying it. I think other doctors probably could have sold me on it, but Whittaker does not sell me on it. I was just, when she was giving it the first time I watched it, I was like, the conversation between her and Dan about Yaz is really neat. And I love the fact that Dan catches on that the Doctor notices more than she lets on there. That she fully understands Yaz's feelings, but is just kind of not willing to comment on it, which is so frustrating. For anyone who's ever been in that situation, if you like somebody and they know it and they do nothing about it. I would rather have somebody just tell me they're not interested. That way you can get over it and move on than to not acknowledge it at all. I feel like that's the worst thing you can do in that situation. But 13 is a bit socially awkward. I don't mean that to sound derogatory. It's just a fact. She is a bit socially awkward. So I can see her just not knowing how to broach it and feeling uncomfortable talking about it and just kind of pretending like she doesn't know. It's a good episode. It's a good episode. Next on the list is Asylum of the Daleks. Asylum of the Daleks, I don't know why this is higher than A Town Called Mercy. Because A Town Called Mercy is easily the best story of Season 7A. I don't know why I'm putting Asylum slightly higher. It's fun to watch despite its flaws. It has a lot of flaws. The idea of the Daleks having an asylum for defective Daleks, it really goes against the Daleks' nature. It doesn't make any sense. Daleks would kill defective Daleks. I mean, Daleks kill Daleks that screw up. I mean, look what the Paradigm Daleks did to the regular Daleks in Victory of the Daleks. Like the Doctor said, what do you do to the ones that mess up? You know, you think of Planet of the Daleks when the Dalek leader showed up and killed the other Dalek just because he wasn't good at his job. So the idea they would keep an asylum for defective Daleks seems contrary to the nature of the Daleks. This is also the first episode, I think, where we really see the Dalek puppets with the eye stalks. I don't really like them in general, but they work in this episode. Like when the guy's like, I died out there. I forgot about that. I died. And then all the dead bodies also reanimate. That's pretty neat. It's a pretty chilling little scene. But in general, I don't like them as an idea. The way it sneaks in Clara is really good. Oh my, got something in my. The way it sneaks in Oswin, because we knew Jenna Coleman was going to be the next companion, but we didn't expect to see her yet. The way it snuck her in was really well done. The twist with her at the end is really good. You definitely don't see that coming. The Doctor saw it coming. I love the foreshadowing with that, with the, where do you get the milk for the souffle? The fact he already knows something's up, because he asked that at the beginning, is great foreshadowing. It has some nice humor in it. That's your plan. You're going to fire me at a planet. Well, actually, don't compliment the Daleks when they're firing me at a planet. I love that. It has some good humor in it. Other stuff that doesn't work. The relationship between Amy and Rory being on the rocks doesn't work for me. I feel like it's there just for the Doctor to fix it. And it comes out of nowhere, even though I get some time has passed since the last episode. But it feels forced just for the episode to resolve the way it does with the Doctor basically fixing it. I don't really care for that. The bit about the Daleks' memory of the Doctor being wiped, I never liked that. At all, and I'm glad they got rid of that really quick, because it's a very flawed episode. It's nice seeing previous Daleks, even the special weapons Dalek, even though it's mostly just stuff in the background. I love the scene when Rory's like, what happened to all the Daleks? And the Doctor's just like, what do you think? Or who killed all the Daleks? Who do you think? I love that line. The bit when Rory wakes up the one Dalek and it's just going ag, ag, and he's picking up the little ball, ag. That's funny to me. I mean, it's got some nice humorous moments. It's got its flaws, but I always enjoy rewatching it. That's why it's placed as high as it is. Despite its flaws, it's a fun watch. Next on the list is Time of the Angels and Flesh and Stone. This is a great two-part. It's probably my favorite Angels episode besides Blink. Although if Village of the Angels was a standalone episode, it would probably be my number 2. This one's good. I like how it does something different with the Angels. It's a nice victory lap for them. And it does do different things for them, like how they're killing people, how they can talk with like Bob's voice. It fills out its 2 parts well, and they have very distinctive feels, with, of course, part 1 being on the ship and the ship crashing, part 2 picking up on the planet. I love the realization that all the statues are angels. And I love the fact that the Doctor takes so long to realize it, because he's been to this planet before. But the Doctor taking that long to realize it is very much the Doctor. I mean, even classic Doctors. Something they should have connected way sooner. that takes him a minute and he feels kind of silly about it, that it takes him so long. That's very the Doctor. So I love that. Just that realization when he's like, oh, because he'd mentioned the people having two heads. That was really good. I liked that. River Song is fine in this one. I mean, the bit of who she killed is obvious. Obvious. I knew immediately. Like, it's one of those, like, 70% sure things. I just kind of figured that's what it was. The idea of the church being a militant group was interesting. I got a kick out of that, actually. The way he stopped the angels and sealed the cracks was also good. Yeah, I like this one a lot. The bit when the angels move, I don't really like. I also don't really like the bit about the angels being in Amy's eye. I don't really care for that. I sometimes think the angels have too many powers. The bit with them being in her eye is weird. The thing of an image of an angel becoming an angel, I don't really care for either, to be honest. But for the most part, I enjoy it. I think it's a good, solid episode, or episodes. Next on the list is Hyde. I like Hyde a lot. Hyde, I've talked about it before. It changes genre partway through the story and pulls it off. Because it kind of starts out like a horror story, a spooky story. And then it turns into like a sci-fi story and even a romance story at a point. I like it. I enjoy the little... I like the guest cast. Let me be clear. I like the guest cast. I like the kind of budding romance going on between the two people who are investigating the house. I like how, like, the words appear on the screen saying "help me." I haven't quite forgiven Matt Smith for pronouncing Metebelis wrong. The Metebelis 3 crystal. Technically, there could also be a planet called Metebelis 3. Maybe it's a different crystal. But for me, it's Metebelis 3. Or maybe John Pertwee was pronouncing it wrong. He does say Omega, so... But for me, it's Metebelis, and Matt pronounces it wrong, and I haven't forgiven him for that. But I enjoy this, and I like finding out the ghost is actually the scientist trapped, trying to get out, which I think is a descendant of the other couple, I think. And the fact that the monster's just trying to get back kind of with its girlfriend. I enjoy that. The story definitely goes in directions you don't expect it to go, and I love that. Again, the fact it changes genres. Hyde is a good watch. It does a really good job of subverting your expectations in a good and clever way, which I like. Next on the list is Fugitive of the Jadoon. And despite what some of the naysayers think, I enjoy this one. It's clever. I've never been a huge fan of pre-Hartnell doctors, I'll be honest. But I really like Jo Martin. I like her as Ruth. I like her as the Doctor. She would make a very good mainline Doctor, I think. She's just good in the part. She's channeling a lot of Capaldi in her. And definitely some Hartnell in there, too. But I like her. I take her very seriously. I liked Lee as her companion. The fact he was doing everything he could to protect her. I mean, she actually had a companion. The guy in the bakery shop who likes her, he's funny. I mean, the way the guy plays that part is funny. I like how it leads up to us figuring out who Ruth is and that she's the Doctor. Now, I have a major nitpick with the fact the TARDIS looks like a police box. That bothers me. And I think they did that more to confuse us with where she fell on the timeline. But I still don't like it because it shouldn't look like a police box. That's a major nitpick of mine. And I think that's also a good way a writer could come along later and retcon her somewhere else on the timeline besides being a pre-Hartnell Doctor. With that being a TARDIS, you know, she could be a season 6B Doctor, which I'd be fine with. Season 6C could be the Jo Martin Doctor. I'd be cool with that. The great thing about this one and why it ranks so high is that it holds up on rewatch. Like, it definitely blew me away the first time I saw it. That, and I love seeing Jack back. I know it's a glorified cameo, but I love Captain Jack. So I loved seeing Jack back. I love that whole scene with him and Graham. John Barrowman still just kills it in the role. He needs to know she. I just love his reaction to finding out the Doctor's a woman when he's like, I love that. But yeah, it holds up on rewatch. I still enjoy it, even though I know what's going to happen. It holds up really well. The only thing I don't get is why the Doctors didn't spend more time together. You figured they would want to figure out why they don't know each other. I don't understand why they didn't put their heads together, like literally, you know, contact, beep, 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 beep. I don't know why they didn't do that instead of just them separating. That doesn't make a lot of sense from a narrative point of view. But other than that, I really enjoyed this one. Next on the list is Spyfall, a great two-parter. Part 2 doesn't quite live up for Part 1, but it's a fun adventure. It's a nice James Bond story. It's a good Earthbound story. We get Stephen Fry briefly, and it took me like my second or third watch to realize when he gets shot and he's about to die, he goes, "Oh." He's not saying "oh" as in O-H. He's saying "oh" as in "oh," the person "oh." Like maybe he realized "oh" did it. He goes, "Oh." Took me a while to connect that, but I like it. Sacha Dhawan is great, playing O and playing, spoilers, I guess, the Master. I like him as O. You know, I wish we had gotten him in, like, Series 11 somewhere in a story, so we really would have had some time to attach with him instead of just finding out that him and the Doctor have a history from working together years ago. Like that, I know O. I know. I worked with him for years. I know. I love that. The twist at the end with the reveal of the Master is very well done. I did not see it coming. So the bit it does that, the Spy Master, I was like, did they just do a Utopia on me again? But it works. It works, and Sasha is good in it. He has a little too much of the Sims energy, but not in that cartoonish way. So he works really well in it. It's a really good cliffhanger as well, with a bit of everything you know is a lie. Now, don't get me wrong, I did roll my eyes about it a little bit, but it's still really, really good. Part 2 is neat. I like them traveling through history, meeting historical figures that I wasn't familiar with and had to go look up. The resolution for the light things is a little too easy. I didn't really care for the light things because they were built up as this big threat in Part 1, and I figured we'd get them back in the season, and then that kind of went nowhere. Although they kind of remind me of the special edition version of the Vartans from the Invasion of Time, so that would be interesting if there was a connection there. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I love when the Doctor at the end of Part 1 confronts the Steve Jobs guy. I actually really love how Whittaker does that. Like, the 13th Doctor hasn't quite become quite withdrawn yet. I like the fact that instead of being subtle or use subterfuge, she just calls him out on it. Like, so why are you here? You're an alien. You're 3% not human. What are you doing? I love the fact she just jumps right in with both feet and confronts him on it. I love that. That's definitely one of those moments where I will praise Whittaker in the role. They're few and far between, but that's one of them. I enjoy that scene right there. And how the Doctor doesn't try any, like, you know, the second Doctor or someone else might have subtly tried to find out information, but 13, to her credit, she just jumps right in. I like that. I really, really like that. Yeah, and then I didn't like the reveal that Gallifrey was destroyed again. It kind of negates the Doctor bringing it back. It kind of negates Day of the Doctor. It kind of negates the Tom Baker scene in Day of the Doctor, which really irks me a lot. I would much prefer the Time Lords still be around and the Doctor be in fear of them, like in early classic Who. That's the way I like it. So I don't like the fact it destroyed the Time Lords, and I don't like the fact that the Master did it, because I don't feel like the Master could do that. You know, someone like Morbius, maybe. I've always thought of Morbius as more deadly than the Master, so I don't like the idea of the Master being that deadly. That's my biggest nitpick with the episode. Next on the list is the God Complex, and this is probably higher than people thought I would put it. Let me be clear, it's here mainly because I love the execution of the story. I find the actual story to be rubbish, like absolute rubbish. The story itself does nothing for me. I think it's silly, I think it doesn't make sense, and I think it's kind of dumb, actually. But it's executed so well, it's directed so well. I love its use of lighting, I love its use of camera angles. It's almost like The Shining in ways where it does things to just put you off. The bit when the Doctor opens the door to his room and we don't see what's in it and closes the door, I like that. I really like The other girl that he has this bond with, the one that ends up dying, I liked her. She would have made a great companion. I like that there's immediately a connection between them. I really liked her. The actress did a solid job on that. The guy who's in the room surrounded by dummies who's tied up, I thought he did some good acting. I thought the performances were good. So that's why it's this high. It is a perfect example of a story that I think is absolute crap. Crap story that makes no sense and is just dumb. But it is executed and directed so well that I have to appreciate that. I also do enjoy the scene when the doctor basically has to break Amy's faith in him to save her. Very reminiscent of what McCoy had to do to Ace in Curse of Fenric, actually. But it's a really well acted scene between Karen and Matt when they're doing it. So, rubbish story, great execution and directing. Next on the list is The Impossible Astronaut and Day of the Moon. I like this one. First off, I love Kenton Edward Delaware III, or whatever his name is. I mean, both versions of him are good. Matter of fact, I know that their father and son, the one playing the older one is the father of the one playing the younger one. I really like them, especially the younger one. I know he's also in Battlestar Galactica, the remake of it. He is just great. Just as an actor, I like him. But he's perfect in this role. I like how he just rolls with everything going on. And the way he delivers his lines is perfect. I like when after he gets out of the TARDIS and he just looks at the daughter, he's like, I like your wheels. And how he convinces Nixon to listen to the doctor. Well, you can listen to this guy or the guy who got past all of them. Can you give me 5 minutes? He's like, 5 minutes? 5 minutes. I like that. I just really like him in this episode. He's really, really, really good. The story, I like the silence. The silence are really impressive. It's an interesting take on Slender Man, really, if you think about it. I like how it incorporates kind of the Slender Man mythology. And just the idea of a creature that as soon as you're not looking at it, you forget everything about it. You don't remember any instance of looking at it. That's neat. It just erases itself from your memory. That's fascinating. That's a fascinating concept. I would have never come up with that. And it's a very, very clever concept. Is it utilized as well over the arc of the season? No. But it's used really well in this two-parter. I like their look. I like the sounds they make. There's something off and eerie about them. I love the mystery set up with the girl in the suit. What's going on with her? How can she regenerate? Etc., etc. The episode ends in a good cliffhanger. Part 1 has a good cliffhanger as well. It is a little convoluted. It does get a little messy. Like how it switches to where they are at the end of Part 1 and where they are at the beginning of Part 2 is a bit, what? What's going on here? The bit when they're at the orphanage and the one guy still thinks it's 1964 or whatever, I love that bit. The fact that he's been through it so much it's affected his memory. The actor playing that guy nails it perfectly. I really enjoy that scene. It does have a lot of eeriness to it, I like. I like the resolution of the episode, how he uses the moon landing to stop them all. That's really clever. I don't understand the bit when they're fighting and he's using the sonic, like River's using her gun and he's just using the sonic. I don't know what he's doing. Even she's like, what are you doing? Helping! It's a sonic! Like seriously, what are you going to do? Assemble a cabinet at them? That doesn't make sense. It does have little nitpicks that aren't quite occurring to me at the moment. But it's a nice, fun romp and a great setup for Series 6, even if Series 6 doesn't deliver on the setup. Next on the list is the rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel. One of the very few times in Modern Who, one of probably only 2 times in Modern Who, when the Cybermen have really been done justice. I love the fact that they set this on a parallel Earth. It explains why the Cybermen look different from their classic counterparts, why they look different, why they move different, why they sound different, because they have evolved on a different path than the classic Cybermen. I like that. That's done well. The guy playing John Lumick is great, by the way. I really like him. The guy playing his assistant is also great. Both of them do a good job. It's nice seeing Pete Tyler back. It's nice seeing Jackie playing against Type, playing a different version of herself. I enjoyed. Also like the guy playing. I think it's the mayor, president, whatever he is. I don't remember what he's playing, but I like him. I wish he'd been in part 2 because he gets killed at the end of part 1. But I like him. I like him as an actor. I know him from other stuff, but I like him in this role. It's a great way to bring the Cybermen back. It's one of the few times I feel like Modern Who understands the Cybermen, and it's a nice new take on them in a way that makes sense for why they look different. It's a good episode, and it's nice to see Mickey kind of grow a little here and why he decides to stay behind. I like this one. Next on the list is Bad Wolf and Parting of the Ways. Part 1 has not aged well with the game shows, like the mid-2000s game shows, The Weakest Link and all that. It's really hard to go back and watch part 1. I think it has a really good cliffhanger. I love like the last 5 to 10 minutes of part 1. When you find out it's the Daleks, when the Doctor confronts them. No. I said no. It means no. Rose, I'm coming to get you. I love all of that. That is great. The reveal of the Daleks, that's good. It's a great cliffhanger. It's part 2 that really bolsters it. I like part 2. I like bringing the Emperor Dalek back. He's got a cool design. I love Eccleston's not having any of it approach. You can just see the rage and anger that he feels that the Daleks are back in force after everything he sacrificed to get rid of them. So if anyone's going to be quiet, it's you! I love all of that. Useless. I love that. I like some of the guest cast, like the guy and the girl. The guy is the crush on the girl. I enjoyed them. The workers there, they're fine. The one guy who just wants to win the game, get his money, and go home. The actor playing him plays that part perfectly. I really like Linda. Was it Linda with a Y, I guess? I forget that. I don't remember. But I liked her. I was sad she died. Again, I liked the little connection her and the Ninth Doctor had. And I like the fact Rose was kind of about it. I don't know why, but I thought that was funny. I really wish she had survived. I kind of wish the Doctor could go back in time and just have the TARDIS materialize as she's getting sucked out the window and save her. I don't know why, but I'd love that. Because I liked her. And it's a good ending. I like the fact, especially with future context of at this point 9 thinking he pushed the button as the War Doctor to wipe out Gallifrey, that he pretty much was in the same situation with Earth and would have wiped out like half of Earth, and that might be why he couldn't do it, why he does that line about, are you killer or coward? He goes, coward every time. It's because he realizes he's right there with another switch, and he doesn't want to do that again, because the events of the time were so haunting him. That fascinates me. I love the scene, of course, when he sends Rose home with the hologram, especially the bit when he turns to look at her at the side and tells her to have a good life. It's such a touching scene. The regeneration scene is well done. The Bad Wolf scene when Rose stops everything is also really good, but I love the regeneration scene. It's one of my favorite regenerations. It's a good way to ease people new to the show into the concept. I like that they get their last little talk together. It's not overly long either, like, say, 12's is. It's just enough for the Doctor to be reassuring his companion, Rose, and also us as the audience, getting, reassuring us and giving us a little bit of extra time with him. And then we get a really beautiful regeneration, the first time the Doctor has ever regenerated standing up that we've ever seen on television, which has been done to death in Modern Who now. If I was ever the Doctor in Modern Who, my main request would be, I want to regenerate laying down. I'm a little sick of the Doctors regenerating standing up. But for the time, it was unique and revolutionary for him to regenerate standing up. And I love the effect of you actually see his face morphing. Most of the regenerations don't do that. You actually see it slowly morphing and changing. That's cool. So not a really strong part 1, but a really strong part 2 that makes up for it. Next on the list is the Crimson Horror. This one is just fun. This one is like Unicorn and the Wasp. It's a filler episode, but it's so much fun. And it's almost done tongue-in-cheek. Kind of got this season 17 vibe to it. And I love season 17 of Classic Who. So it kind of has that. I love the little flashback scene partway through the episode, which is done in that kind of sepia, however you say it, tone, and you even have him reference Tegan. Then he even looks at Clara and goes, Braveheart, Clara. I love the callback there. We get Diana Rigg and Doctor Who. And I love the fact she just seems to be having the time of her life playing this crazy old woman. I love it. And then, of course, the actress playing her daughter, which I think is her daughter in real life, is doing really well with the part she's playing. With the makeup and everything's done really well on her. I enjoy this one. It's silly fun. I mean, we have a line where the Matt Smith gets to tell somebody, I'm the doctor, you're nuts, and I'm going to stop you. And I love the way Matt Smith delivers that line. I'm the doctor, you're nuts, and I'm going to stop you. Again, it's just a fun Doctor Who episode. I like that. I'm also trying to remember if this is the one where, yeah, the Ponstenatter gang shows up. And, there's that one scene when Jenny is like stripping down to get ready to fight and the doctor's watching her and he's holding the Sonic like this and then he looks at it and he goes, and then he goes back to watching her and the Sonic and the doctor looks confused as why it's doing it. I just love the innuendo there and the fact that the Sonic knows what's up but the doctor doesn't. That whole bit, I didn't even catch it the first time I watched it. It was either the second or third time I watched it. I was like, because it's a bit subtle. I absolutely love that scene just for the innuendo involved. It's a fun watch. It really is. And next on the list, higher than most people probably thought I would have it, is Vincent and the Doctor. Now, I have a lot of issues with Vincent and the Doctor. I have talked about them numerous times. It is one of the most overrated episodes in all of Doctor Who. It is easily Matt Smith's most overrated episode. But it still does a lot of good stuff. Now, the guy playing Vincent, I like. I'm convinced of him. I'm not convinced of his beard. I don't know why, but the beard always bothers me. It just looks like a fake beard. I can't get over that. But the actor's doing a good job. The fact that the creature is like a giant rooster doesn't work for me. A giant chicken, a giant rooster. It doesn't work. I don't like when Doctor Who aliens are human animals. Except the Jadoon, because I love the Jadoon. But other than that, you got to do something different with it. You know, every alien shouldn't just be human animal but bigger and walks on two legs. Well, that's just not creative. Now, the fact that only Vincent can see it because of his unique perspective on things is a cool idea. Plus, I'm sure that saves on the budget by having them fight an invisible creature. That's also that's harkening back to classic Who there and being clever with your budget. That part I buy. The ending when Vincent goes to the future. You guys, most of you who watch my channel, you know I hate that. It is the most jumping the shark moment I have seen in Doctor Who, possibly. Definitely one of them. I never buy that. I roll my eyes so hard there. I mean, the only thing that might be worse is the moon is an egg. I hate that scene with an utter passion. And hate is the word. I don't like that scene. I just don't. I mean, it's an interesting lesson because, of course, the episode is supposed to be about depression. I feel like Can You Hear Me handles that way better and will be much higher on the list. Also, I don't really watch Doctor Who to be lectured about depression. I watch Doctor Who to escape, to enjoy myself, to have fun. If I want to know what depression's like, I have real life for that. I don't watch Doctor Who for that. I watch Doctor Who to get away from that. So I don't like that scene at all. Now, good things about the episode. The scene when they're laying down on their backs looking at the sky and the sky transforms into Starry Night, the Starry Night painting. Fantastic. I love that. I absolutely love that. Matter of fact, I love the fact Sophie used the Starry Night look for the Series 5 Steelbook for the background of it. Phenomenal thinking on her part. I also really enjoy the speech at the end about the pile of good things and the pile of bad things. That's probably my favorite moment of the whole episode. That's a great speech. I actually remember that speech because that's very true about life. So I really appreciate that speech. I love the connection between Amy and Vincent because at this point, Amy doesn't remember Rory. He's been wiped from existence. So there's a little almost romantic bond between them. I think she comments, if they'd had any children, it would have been the ultimate ginger. I really enjoyed just kind of the connection they had. So it's a good episode, but just episodes that I have issues with that really bother me. But the things I like, that's the thing, that's the best way to sum up Vincent and the Doctor. The things I don't like about it, I really don't like about it. But the things I like about it, I really like about it. And that's why it falls where it does on the list. Next on the list is The Sound of Drums and Last of the Time Lords. I have problems with the Sim Master. He seems Wile E. Coyote. Wile E. Coyote. Super genius. I don't like it. He's a bit too cartoonish here for me, and that kind of gets grating. I don't like Tennant being sidelined in the old makeup a lot. I do like having Jack, Martha, and the Doctor together. I like it. For some reason, it being set on contemporary Earth works. The Master basically taking control and running the Earth for a year. I like that setup. I even like the rewind at the end where time gets rewound back because it explains why the Master could rule the Earth and, you know, have everybody subjugated for a year, but then nobody remembers it later. That actually makes sense. I enjoy that. We get to see a little more of Martha's family, which I like. And plus, I just tend to like Series 3. And it's a nice way to end the series. Plus, the revelation about who Jack is at the end is really nice. I enjoy this one. Might be placed a little higher than it needs to be, but I enjoy this one. Next on the list is Revolution of the Daleks, my favorite of the Chibnall Dalek stories. I always love a Dalek Civil War. It's a nice callback to Revelation of the Daleks and Remembrance of the Daleks. And very much the Daleks being the Daleks. If they see Daleks that aren't proper Daleks, they kill them because they're not pure Daleks. And the Daleks are pretty picky about that kind of thing. So the Daleks are very much, unlike Asylum of the Daleks, the Daleks are very much acting like the Daleks in this. I enjoy the new Dalek design well enough, the one that's kind of reused from Resolution. It looks fine for what it is. Although I love the fact that the actual Daleks wax the new Daleks so easily because they're so much more powerful. I love that. I love the line when the Doctor mentions how they're always in the time vortex like sharks waiting in the water. I enjoy that line. The Robinson is written better. He doesn't just feel like someone bashing Trump in this one. He actually feels a little more fleshed out. I mean, you still don't feel like you can trust the guy, let's be honest. But he has a little more depth to him, which I can appreciate here. It's nice to see him kind of grow as a character a little. I don't like the part at the beginning when the Doctor's trapped in the prison for so long because that feels very un-Doctor-like, and if it had been any other Doctor, would have been out of there much quicker, I firmly believe. It's nice to have Jack back, though. It's a good excuse to bring Jack back. We get more of Jack. Again, I really like Captain Jack as a character. I always have since the first time I saw him in The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. He's just a well-written, well-acted character. So it's great to have him back. I love seeing him interact with 13 and how he gets her out of prison with the bubble. That's pretty cool. And watching the Doctor have to cope with how things have changed, seeing Yaz's kind of obsession with finding her. Interesting how she kind of learned to fly the TARDIS, sort of. Oh, excuse me. Seeing how Ryan has, got to where he's changed his mindset, wants to leave, and because of that, Graham wants to stay to spend time with him. And even seeing the Doctor, I could go back in time, 10 months or a year, however long it's been. Seeing that kind of loss she feels with them leaving and the fam kind of breaking up. It's a good episode with a good resolution. I like the way it ends. And I like how it's kind of a sequel to Resolution, actually, with the guy cloning the Dalek, which wasn't a good idea. And we knew that was going to go badly. Like, when he's sitting there trying to get it out, I'm like, this is going to go badly. And when it gets on him, I'm like, yeah, that went badly. It's a good episode. It is a good episode. Next on the list is Time Heist. This is another one that's pretty fun, actually. It's basically Doctor Who meets Ocean 11. That's the way I think of it. It makes me think of the Ocean 11 movies, with them having to, pull off a bank heist, basically. Sneak in, take this. And it kind of has that feel to it, this kind of, again, Ocean's 11 feel to it. I like the guest cast. They're fine. I like Capaldi in this one. I love the fact Capaldi realizes who set it up. I forget how he phrases it, but I love how he realizes it's him that set it up. And they just don't remember it because the memory worm. I like the resolution when you realize it's an older version of that one woman who hired them to do it. Well, that's why he leaves her the card. When he figures everything out, he's like, here's my card in case you ever want to call me. I like that. It's just fun and adventurous. It's been a minute since I've watched it, so it's not fresh on my mind. But I tend to like the Ocean's 11 movies, at least the modern ones. So I kind of really got a kick out of this one. Next on the list is End of the World, the second episode. Now, this isn't the best episode ever, but as the second episode of the series, I think it does a good job keeping things moving. This is the first time when we're not in the present. We go far into the future. And what a way to start off modern Doctor Who, basically, with the destruction of Earth. That's aiming high. Some of the special effects have aged poorly. And I know some of you might be like, but Classic Who had bad effects. But yes, but for some reason, aging practical effects don't bother me as much as aging CGI effects. For some reason, those bug me more. So classic Doctor Who, I can accept the effects most of the time. Modern Doctor Who, those early seasons sometimes, I'm like, and this one has several effects where I'm like, but it's still a good episode. I like the variety of characters here. They all look so alien. I actually like the idea of sentient trees. Also, the actress playing the one that has the kind of the flirtatious nature with the Doctor, I like her. She's really good. The actress playing her is really good. I really like the rapport between her and the Doctor. And when she finds out who he is, and she's like, I'm sorry. I saw who you were. And she's just like, I'm sorry. And but we hadn't learned about the Time War yet, so we're like, I like, the Cassandra, the last human. I like her, the face of Bo, the creatures of the repeating meme, who of course look like they're up to no good. And then the blue guy who looks like he's from Jabba's canteen. I really like the nature of the characters. I like the blue people who run the station. They're executed well. I felt bad for the two people who got killed. The guy when the shield came down, and the woman when she got pulled through the vents. Because what brief time we get with them, I liked them. I thought the actors playing them did a good job. It's interesting seeing how dark this Doctor is, and you start to realize how damaged he is when he lets Cassandra die, because that's something a lot of Doctors wouldn't do. Doctors who came before and a lot of the Doctors who come after, they still would have saved her. But when the Doctor's like, no, everything has its time and everything ends. I love that. The Doctor's like, mm-mm. And then, of course, getting the explanation at the end of the Time War. And we realize, okay, this is not classic Doctor Who anymore. The things have changed. There's a new status quo here. Now, we don't realize who they're at war with yet. It doesn't mention the Daleks. We just know that Gallifrey is gone and that all the Time Lords are gone except him. That's an interesting new way to view the show. And then, of course, Rose's freak out when she realizes Earth is gone. It's very natural for a companion, right when they first start traveling, to be freaked out by the events happening around her. That's actually very realistic, and I actually enjoy that that's in there. It's really good, especially for when it came out. As a second episode to the show, I think it works really well. Next on the list is Boomtown. I enjoy Boomtown, I think, more than most. It's got a good blend of seriousness and humor to it. I like the woman who plays the Sladine in it. She's great, just like she was in the World War III two-parter. She's great in this. She has, again, serious moments, but she also has these really humorous moments and this nice comedic timing at times. I mean, we do get to see her kind of softer side when she lets the one reporter go because the reporter's pregnant. That's pretty neat. The whole bit when she's talking to the reporter about how everyone who had tried to block it had died. What was it? Like his head was cut off. It was a very slippery ice patch. Or the bit of, well, he got ran over. Well, I tried to stop. I couldn't see him. I couldn't stop in time. It's done very humorously, that little bit. The bit when the doctor and her are having dinner, how it flips back and forth between serious and comedic. Like when she's talking about poisoning him and shooting with the dart, and he's like, "Yep, I did know that, thanks," and he's spraying the breath in there. So, "Oh, thank you," and he's like, there's definitely some humorous bits there when she's trying to kill him, and he just takes it in stride, and is like, "Oh yeah, I did know that." But then they have the very serious discussion in there too, about every now and then you let one go. Only a killer would know that. So it's nice how just that scene blends those together really well. I enjoyed the scene when she keeps trying to teleport away. Like, even when he's telling the guy, just tell her the doctor wants to talk to her. Just the doctor. She's going out the window, isn't she? That's funny. And then when she's trying to teleport away and he just keeps... It's really funny the way Eccleston does that. He's just... And then she tries again, he's... I love that. I love that. But again, it still has these serious moments in it, too. So it's like... It's much like Eccleston himself, where it can be really serious and really funny in places. And I enjoy it. I think it's an underrated story. Next on the list is A Christmas Carol. This is quite possibly my favorite of the Christmas stories. Almost. I know at least one is ranked higher, actually. But it is a really good one. It's a nice take on, of course, the classic Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. Michael Gambon is fantastic in the kind of Scrooge role. Matt Smith is fun playing the Ghost of Christmas, well, past, present, and future, really. And I love how it does a twist on the Ghost of Christmas future. Are you going to show me my future? I already am. And it's him as a child seeing him. I enjoy that. I think the sci-fi elements of it work really well with, like, him able to control whatever it is, all he controls, and with the fish and the sharks and everything in there. It's pretty neat. The love story in it's a little... I don't really go for it as much. But again, that ties in with the theme of A Christmas Carol. And then the song that she sings, the singer in it that plays the main female in it, I like that song a lot. I actually have that song on my iTunes. That's a really good song. It's just a wonderful Christmas fairy tale story. I still don't understand how Matt Smith didn't lose an arm. Like when the shark has the Sonic, though. And he's like, all right, I get 2 chances, and then it's your turn. And the sharks, I don't understand how somebody didn't lose an arm there, but willing suspension of disbelief. It's Christmas after all. So it's a nice Christmas story and a good spin on A Christmas Carol. Next on the list is Demons of the Punjab. Now, I have done several videos about Demons. I like it a lot. It very much reminds me of a First Doctor pure historical. Whittaker is pretty good in it for the most part. Yaz is all right in it, but I swear I feel like her grandmother gets more attention than she does in it. Graham and Ryan are fine. It's really the guest cast that make this work for me. Yaz's grandmother, especially the actress playing the younger version of her, I like what she does. The person she is engaged to be married, or the person she does end up marrying, I really like him. The actor playing him is so good in this role. I love the red herring about what's going on with the assassins, to where you start to think it's a pseudo-historical, but then you find out the real villain is just history itself, history playing out the way history does, which kind of, again, turns it into a First Doctor story where the Doctor and companions are just caught up in the events of history. When you find out the assassins are basically just like the Watchers in Highlander. That's interesting to me. I love the confrontation between Yaz's grandmother's husband and his brother at the end, and the group with him. That is a really well acted scene when the one guy aims the gun at him and cocks it, and he's just like, really? Just completely aghast that he would turn on him like that. You know, we fought together in the war. We made a good team. And the Doctor being in this situation where she can't interfere with history because she would erase Yaz and everything that happened after. So the Doctor can't, much like early Doctor stories, when you can't change history, not one line. It's very much that situation where the Doctor can't alter history. She has to be very careful. She even tells Yaz that, you know, be careful, you're treading on your own history. I enjoy that line. The only thing that doesn't make sense is the fact they can't figure out how the medical guy, the guy who was supposed to marry them originally, they can't figure out how he died. Like, and it turns out he died from a bullet wound. You figured you would find a bullet wound, but everybody's puzzled. Well, how did he die? We don't know. Stuff's just on him. We don't. Seems a bit of a plot hole there. Like, you can drive an 18-wheeler through it, plot hole. But other than that, it's a really, really good episode. A very strong episode from the Whittaker era. And just a good episode of Doctor Who in general. Next on the list is A Good Man Goes to War. I like this one. It's a great mid-season cliffhanger. I always find the first half of Series 6 to be better than the second half of Series 6. And this, what an episode this is. There's so much going on. Very action-oriented. I would have liked the Doctor to have pulled in more familiar companions, because I'm sure there's a lot more people that owe him favors. So I would have preferred more familiar faces, like, bringing in some of UNIT or something like that. That would have been neat. Or past companions, even. But I enjoy it. I love the confidence Matt Smith has in it. He has a lot of great dialogue in this. Like when he first reveals himself disguised as a monk. Point a gun at me if you like. Amelia Pond, get your coat. I love that. I enjoy that a lot. I like Rory in this one too. Even at the very beginning, when he blows up all the Cybermen stuff. Do I need to repeat the question? It's a nice scene. Don't screw with the Doctor's friends. The scene when the Doctor talks with the female soldier that's dying that helped fight with him, and he remembers her from her childhood. And he goes, "You helped my friends. Thank you." And then, and Lady Vastra's like, she was very brave. And he's like, they're always brave. That was a very beautiful scene. Very good dialogue. I love how well it's performed by everyone involved. I like having Dorian back. I like Dorian as a character. I don't know. Just the actor playing Dorian does such a good job. And then it leaves us on a nice cliffhanger about what's coming next, which is pretty neat. And then I love the Doctor's speech about calling the guy Captain Runaway. Good men don't need rules. Now is not the day to find out why I have so many. That whole bit when you see the rage of the Time Lord, the rage of the 11th Doctor. I love that. It's a great way to end the mid-season while we waited for part 2. Next on the list is Voyage of the Damned. I like this one. I believe this has the highest viewing numbers of any episode of modern Doctor Who. There are several classic Doctor Who episodes that, of course, are sitting higher. But at 13.3 or so million, it is the highest views for modern Doctor Who. And it's a good one. It's a nice, again, Christmas special. Tennant's in fine form. It's got a really good guest cast. And the guest characters I really enjoy. There's a nice variety of them. We get Bernard Cribbins back in this one, and I love me some Bernard Cribbins. He's great. It's great to see him back. I love Clive Swift in this. He's just so good playing the kind of conductor of the tour. I really like Clive Swift in this. The guy playing the guy's name I can't pronounce that looks like a red cactus. What a name. He's doing a good job. I like how he goes out protecting people. I'm a cyborg. I love that. I don't really know Kylie much. I'm guessing she's a popular singer. Isn't that her name, Kylie? She's fine. She doesn't really blow me away, but she's fine. I liked her character well enough. I like the guy playing Max Capricorn. I like the fact it sneaks Jeffrey in as the captain of the ship. Jeffrey, of course, is an actor from Classic Who. I love when they sneak in Classic Who actors, so I love that we get him captaining in the ship. It's an interesting spin on the Titanic. I love that line about, well, it's Earth's most famous ship. But do you know why it's Earth's most famous ship? That's funny. Even the one guy, the business guy that you just hate, you just hate him. The fact he survives, I still like him as a character. The actor's playing him well. And the fact he survives, because he's kind of the one you want to die, and he survives. And looking back on it, I'm kind of glad he survives. I love the rage when Matt Smith's trying to save Kylie and he can't. And he's trying to fix the machines. You can't do anything. And he kicks the things like, I can do anything. I love that when you start to see some of that Time Lord Victorious there. I like that. But then he gives that speech afterward. Let her travel among the stars. And that one doesn't quite work for me. It's a good episode. And I like the angels in it. They kind of remind me of the Axons actually a little bit in design. I like them. They're a little campy, but it's like a classic Who campy, so I like it. It's a nice little adventurous romp, this one. Next on the list is Time of the Doctor, Matt Smith's final episode. I like this one well enough. I think it's really good. It's a good ending for the 11th Doctor. It doesn't quite tie up everything, but it ties up a lot. It brings the crack in the wall back, which I like, and it kind of solves the mystery of that. Matt Smith's putting in a good performance. Jenna Coleman's putting in a good performance. I also like the woman that runs the church, who's old friends with the Doctor. The actress playing her is really good, and I like her character in it. And then the fact that the Doctor just dies of old age, that he spends like 900 years there just defending the planet while keeping Clara safe, sending her away. I like that. The aged makeup on him, especially the first time you see him when he's older, when he's only like 300 years older, that makeup's really good. It's really, really good. And then even the old man makeup on him is pretty good. I mean, it's obviously makeup, but it still looks pretty good. I don't really care for the sneeze regeneration, where he basically sneezes and he's Capaldi. Also, the fact that the regeneration energy blows up the whole Dalek ship. I don't really care for that either. It seems a little over the top. I do love his speech, though, right when he realizes he can regenerate. I love his speech right there. It's a great speech, a good tour de force from Matt. Also, his speech right before he regenerates is good. The bit with him seeing Amy's a little indulgent, but everything up to that I like. It all disappears like breath on a mirror. I love that line. We all change all throughout our lives. I will always remember when the Doctor was me. I love all of that. That's really, really good. It's a good episode. Some of the stuff in the middle's a little... And the bit about the invisible clothes and the Doctor not realizing... The whole stuff with the invisible clothes is weird to me. It doesn't need to be there, but whatever. So it's got some flaws, but it's a good finale for Matt. Next on the list is Nikola Tesla's Night of Terror. Is that what it's called? I like this one. You guys know I love the Tesla episode. It is a strong one. Part of it is simply the fact the guy playing Tesla is so good as Tesla. He nails this role. I think when I think of Tesla, I'm not going to be thinking of Tesla. I'm going to be thinking of him as Tesla. A lot like I think people do with General Patton, George S. Patton. I think a lot of people, when they think of Patton, they don't think of Patton. They think of George C. Scott as Patton, which makes sense because George C. Scott's just amazing in that role. And this guy really nails being Tesla. He's so good in that. Whitaker's fine. The rest of the cast is fine. The guy playing Thomas Edison is also really good. Another classic Who alumni, I believe. He's good. I enjoy the story. I love the fact that they got the girl that plays Ronnie in Sarah Jane Adventures playing kind of the queen of the aliens, the leader of the aliens. She's great in this. I like her. And the story I enjoy. The directing of it's really good. I love watching like Yaz and Ryan just kind of in awe of the ideas Tesla has, because a lot of that's similar to stuff that they actually have in our time. So they're like, wow, he thought of this and we have that. That's pretty neat, actually, seeing that he's kind of a visionary ahead of his time. Granted, it doesn't, it touches more on the good stuff of Tesla and not the bad stuff of Tesla. But, it doesn't have to be completely historically accurate. But it is a really good story, a fun adventure, and it has a very optimistic, upbeat ending, unlike, say, Vincent and the Doctor. I much prefer this over Vincent and the Doctor. That's why it's ranked considerably higher. I love its much more optimistic beat and ending, especially that bit at the end, like when he talks about them and the present. They're gonna laugh at you. Let them have the present. I have the future, and the future is mine. And when he walks off with a smile, I love that. That's a phenomenally good ending. I just really enjoy this story. It's one of those stories where if somebody has trouble watching the Whitaker era, if they gave up when Capaldi left, I say go watch the Tesla episode. This is one of the ones I point to and say, give this one a chance. It's good Doctor Who. Next on the list is the Shakespearean Code. You guys know I love Series 3. It's my favorite series of modern Doctor Who. And this is a very underrated story. I like the witches. The actress playing the witches are good, especially kind of the lead one. I like the guy playing Shakespeare, a younger version of Shakespeare. He has a nice charisma to him. I love the fact he picks up on who the Doctor and Martha are when he's talking about, you mean traveling through time and space? He goes, well, Martha, you're obviously from the future, and Doctor, you're from another world. And I love that bit earlier when he's talking to the Doctor, and he talks to him, and he says that line about, and you who look so young but has eyes so old. That's such a good way to describe the Doctor. You who look so young but has eyes so old. I love that line so much. I like how it ties in with him writing the plays and how it ties in with the plays. I love the teaser before the trailer with the poor guy gets to go up to the room and they eat him. I don't know. It reminds me how in Doctor Who sometimes people just die gruesome deaths. It happens. Some people just have some sad fates. And so how they trick him up there and then I like that opening. I love how it really emphasizes the Doctor is not the Doctor's name. How, like, the one witch knocks Martha out, and then she calls him the Doctor, and it doesn't affect him. He's still standing there. He understands the power of a name. Although I do like the bit when she stops, like, one of his hearts, and he's over there like, how do you survive with just one heart? How do you... That's funny to me. That's funny. And then I like the climactic ending, and how the audience just thinks it's part of the show, so of course the Queen wants to come and see it. And then the ending of her like, Doctor, and he's like, what? My nemesis. What? Off with his head. I love the ending of that. It's a fun, underrated episode. I really enjoy it. And next on the list is Vampires of Venice. I enjoy this one. This is another one that's got a good amount of humor mixed into the story while still having the very serious moments. First off, the woman that plays kind of the mom of the fish people, the female leader of the fish people, the actress playing her is phenomenally good. I really, really like her in this. She is a good antagonist, but you also feel for what her people are going through. You understand why the fish people are doing what they're doing. So even though they are definitely the antagonist of the story, you understand why they've been forced into this. It's another consequence of the Time War. And I love the conversations she has with the Doctor. There's a mutual respect between them. Even though they're enemies, they seem to have a mutual respect for each other. I love the scene when they're trading questions and she's asking him where he's from, and he's like, Gallifrey. He goes, you belong in a museum or a mausoleum. That's a really, really good scene. I really like her a lot in the story. I like the humorous bits of the story. This is the one, of course, at the beginning with the Doctor and Rory when he pops his head out of the cake and he's like, your fiance kissed me last night. And, of course, Rory's, oh, no, it's okay. She's a great kisser. You ever had anything that just sounds better when you're thinking it? That's funny. And then the innuendos with the UV lights. Well, you gotta have this UV light, and the Doctor's like, whoop. Yours is bigger. Let's not go there. I love that. The bit when the Doctor sees the vampires and they're not in the mirror. You know, their reflection. They're not casting a reflection. And he's over there just super excited, completely oblivious to the danger, because that's very much the Doctor. Just, how are you doing that? I just love his excitement completely overpowers his caution and his awareness of the danger. I love that completely. And that bit when he's like, tell me the whole plan. And they just hiss at him. He's like, one day that'll work. I love that. It has a nice mix of humor in with it. Like when Rory's facing off between the one vampire. There's a bit of humor there. I love the Batman's like, they're vampires. No, fish from space. The way Matt Smith says that in that excited tone, I absolutely love that. But it has those serious moments too, like when the Doctor tells Amy to go back to the TARDIS. And she's like, what are you talking about? He's, no, this isn't a debate. I tell you, you go. He puts his foot down. You know, this is not a democracy. I tell you to go, and you go. And of course, she almost acts like a petulant child. You can almost see her stomp her foot, and that she's frustrated about it. But I love the fact that early Matt Smith Doctor has a little bit of that Sixth Doctor temper in him. I really enjoy that. I really like the actor playing the dad, the one that's trying to rescue his daughter, which she's fine too. The daughter, she's fine. We don't get a lot with her, but she's fine. But the dad is really good. I really like the actor playing him. He does a good job. I like how he goes out, knowing his daughter has died. He goes out fighting. I like that. It's a really, really fun episode, a really good episode. And again, it mixes its humorous and serious moments very, very well. Next on the list is Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. This one is probably lower than a lot of people would have it, and I understand that. Part of it could just be I've seen it so many times, because I used to watch the Tennant era a lot. Also, the stuff going on with Donna in the dream world honestly doesn't interest me much. I mean, it's nice to see Donna with a family and to see how she feels about that, since she does think that's a real family. It's interesting. It's a nice character study for Donna, really. But I tend to get less interested during those scenes. The cliffhanger for the first part with Donna's face doesn't quite hold up for me as much as it used to. I like the guest cast a lot. Like, all of the guest cast are nice. I love the Vashna Narada. They're a cool villain. I really like the idea. It's another opportunity where Doctor Who takes something ordinary like shadows and makes them terrifying. We have an innate fear of the dark, and this kind of lends into that. So I think that's really neat. Every shadow? No, but any shadow. That's really cool. The bit when, let's go back to the TARDIS. Does it look different to you? Well, a little darker. So I enjoy that. The fact the whole planet is a library. The story of how the shadows got there makes sense with them, of course, living in the trees. Dust in the sunbeams. That's pretty cool. I like that. Again, I like the guest cast a lot. River is very fascinating. She's probably more fascinating in this episode than she ever is. And I like River for the most part. I think Alex is a great actress and plays River well. It's interesting to be in a situation where you have someone who knows more than the Doctor in some ways, who is ahead of the Doctor. That she knows him after he's much more developed and older. And that, it doesn't quite fit, honestly, because she should know the 10th Doctor more, and I'm sure in Big Finish she runs into him more because Big Finish. I think it's a great ending with him saving her in the computer. That's pretty cool. This one, for some reason, though, I just have a lot of stories I like better. And one in particular, there is one story that's higher up on the list. I was surprised ranked higher. I'll mention that when I get to it. This one is a good one. It is a very good episode of Doctor Who. It does its horror aspects well. When the people are in the suits, that doesn't quite work. The skull faces in the suits doesn't quite work for me. I feel like the Vashna Narada are less effective because you know where they are now. They're not just hidden in the shadows. They're there. It doesn't quite work for me. It kind of falls apart with them walking around like that, to be honest. And again, the stuff with Donna doesn't really do much for me. But overall, a very solid two-parter, with part 2 living up to part 1, which doesn't always happen in modern Doctor Who. Next on the list is the Empress of Mars. Ah, yes. The first Ice Warrior story of the modern series that we've gotten to on the list. My favorite Ice Warrior stories are the 2 modern Ice Warrior stories. As someone who loves Classic Who, that's hard to say, but it's the truth. The Ice Warriors almost always work because they haven't been featured a lot, being only in, I think, 4 stories of Classic Who. They were going to be in the original season 23. Most people know that. I've read the novelization of Mission to Magnus. It's good. And, of course, 2 episodes of Modern Who, both of which are great. I enjoyed this. I like how it kind of paints the Martians not as the bad guy, or the Ice Warriors not as the bad guys, but some of the greedy human soldiers as the bad guys. I think it's cast well. I like the Empress of Mars. I love the ending with Alpha Centauri. I love that. I love that. I love that. And the fact they actually got the actress who voices Alpha Centauri in Classic Who out of retirement to do it. I know she was in, I think, her 90s at the time, late 80s, early 90s. They got her out of retirement to come back and voiced it. I was so happy they convinced her to do that. That's a really really touching story. I enjoy this one a lot. I love the fact that the effect of when the Ice Warriors shoot people, it doesn't look like the classic Who effect, but it has that kind of cheesy classic Who style to it, to where if you didn't know better, you would think that could be the classic Who effect, how it just kind of folds them up into a ball. That's a very classic Who thing to do. It's a bit cheesy, and I love it for it. I absolutely love it. Also, the Ice Warriors design looks really good. I love the fact that they basically kept the Ice Warriors classic Who design. It just made it look a little better, which is what you should do with classic Who villains. That's where the Silurians got it wrong. And while Legends of the Sea Devils is terrible, I do love the fact they kept the Sea Devil design looking very classic Who, which they do with the Ice Warriors here. Next on the list is Tooth and Claw. I love this one. I love me a good werewolf story. I have been hooked on werewolves since I was little. When I was in like kindergarten or first grade, there was a TV show on Fox. It was actually one of the original shows that came out on Fox in 1987. And the show was called Werewolf. It's a great show. It had Chuck Connors playing the bad guy in a handful of episodes anyway. And it was a really good show. And I loved it. To this day, I still love it. It's a shame it's never actually come out on DVD here in the States. It finally got a DVD release a couple years ago in France. It's actually on my Amazon wish list because I have such an affinity for that show. I wish it would come out on DVD here because I'd love to get it. But because of that show, I have a strong love for werewolves. Even if I don't get into all the werewolf movies, like The Howling was all right, American Werewolf in London was all right, but they've never wowed me the way the show Werewolf did. I love that show. But I do have a strong love for werewolves, so I really liked that here. The CGI on the wolf itself looks a little dated. It's Series 2, early modern Doctor Who, looks a little dated, but it's fine. My willing suspension of disbelief has no problems with that here. It looks good. I love having the actress playing Queen Victoria, who of course was originally in The Faceless Ones. So she's a classic Who alum. She is great as Queen Victoria here. I enjoyed that. I like the guy who owns the house, who's pretty much being blackmailed into helping them. He's really good. Queen Victoria's kind of right-hand man guard. I like the actor playing him a lot. I enjoyed the story, too. I think the directing is really good in it. I don't know if Graham Harper did this one or not, but the directing is really good. The cinematography looks really good. Billy Piper and David Tennant are in good form here. I like how David gets to use his natural Scottish accent in it. That's pretty cool. I never notice when it fades. I can never tell you that specific moment where it slips and he starts using his English accent again, which Queen Victoria points out at the end of the episode. I've never actually noticed when that happens, so that's done really well. The roughest part is the bit where they're in that one room that's supposed to be werewolf proof, like Queen Victoria's husband and the other guy supposedly made it werewolf proof so the werewolf can't get in, but then it's got the giant glass dome the werewolf crashes in on. That seems like a major oversight. Like they would have thought of that. Well, it's not getting in here. Not from the side, not from the side, not from the side, not from the side, not from underneath. Hey, Frank, what do you think of the glass dome? It'll be fine. It's a stylistic choice. That's a bit of a plot hole, but other than that, it's a really good story. Next on the list is the Star Beast, and I suspect this is due to Regency bias. I will admit, first off, I really love the Big Finish audio version of this too. I did listen to that recently. It is very, very good. It's hard for me to pick which one I like better. Possibly the audio version. I like the story of the Star Beast in general, audio and the episode, and the idea of Beat the Meep and the twist with Beat the Meep and the twist with the Wrath Warriors. I think that's a fascinating story and a neat idea, even if I knew the twist going into the story. The TV episode, I did know the twist ahead of time, but it was still neat to see the CGI work on the Meep, because I know the Meep is part practical effects, part CGI work. Is a nice hybrid of the two. The Wrath Warriors look good. I love seeing Donna back. I like how Catherine Tate and David Tennant slip back into their roles so easily and so well. I like Yasmin Finney as Rose. I feel for the most part all of the trans stuff is handled very well. All of that for the most part. that one scene at the end, the Let It Go scene, is probably the cringiest moment I've ever seen in Doctor Who, I won't lie. It is so unnecessary and doesn't need to be there, and just blatantly sexist, honestly. I do have strong issues with that one scene. Other than that, that's handled really well, and I like the character of Rose, and I think Yasmin's doing a good job of their acting. I like seeing Donna's husband back, Sean. I like how he just kind of takes everything in stride going on. I love the fact that when Donna gets her memory back, the first thing she does is, I gave away all my money. That's a very Donna thing to do, and I love it. I absolutely do love that. I do wish they'd given a little more explanation for stuff that the audio drama does give, because it has more time. But again, I realize it has to fit into like this 60-minute time slot. It's really good and leaves off on a nice cliffhanger as we ease into Wild Blue Yonder. On the list is Partners in Crime, which of course is the beginning of Series 4 and brings Donna back. This one has a lot of humorous moments in it I like. It's one of the reasons I love the 10th Doctor and Donna. I love the 10th Doctor and Donna together. They're such a good combination. The scene when they first spot each other, like at the window and the door, and they can't talk but they're communicating. It's me! I can see that. And then she starts doing all that and he's just like, I love that scene. The bit when he's like, well, will she be able to follow us? Nah, I locked it with the Sonic, so we're good unless she has a Sonic device and it cuts to her with a Sonic pin. That's funny. The bit when he's like, have you ever held two Sonic devices together? And no, nor me. It has a lot of humor, but just the adipose themselves look adorable. I mean, they're deadly, especially when you see the one woman who got killed because she completely broke down into them. That's terrible. That's a terrible death. And then just the idea of, the fat becoming sentient and walking away is scary, but they're done in this cute little CGI way to show just how innocent the creatures are. It's not their fault how they were born, basically. But they look cute and adorable, and I like the one that's waving as it's floating away. They're so cute. I see why plushies are made of those things. They're so adorable. The actress playing the kind of nursemaid for them, she's really good in this. I think she does a good job. Even the little minor parts, like the sad woman who dies, she does really good. I like this one. I love the scene at the beginning, or early at the beginning, when the Doctor and Donna keep missing each other. Like when they're in the office and one's going up, and when they go down, the other one bobs up. That's pretty funny. And then the one woman that flirts with him is like, here's my number. He's like, what for? That's the 10th Doctor, all right. What for? Health and safety. You be health. I'll be safety. I love that. It's a fun episode and a great way to start Series 4. And of course, the cliffhanger with Rose is a nice, what the heck is going on here moment, too. Next on the list is The Giggle. The Giggle, again, recency biased, I think, is one of the reasons why this one is so high. But there is a lot going on to it. It does have a bit of an epic feel to it. The cinematography is gorgeous. It just goes to show how much of an improvement has been made in technology and filming since the Tennant era, originally in the late 2000s. This episode just looks so good on screen. Glorious HD, just everything. It looks like a beautiful episode. David Tennant is fantastic in this episode. The actors are putting in good performances. Neil Patrick Harris is great as the toy maker as well. I really like him in the first half of the story when he's more scary and more sinister. The second half of the story, he becomes less like the toy maker and more like Neil Patrick Harris, which is fine. I like Neil Patrick Harris just as an actor. But like the bits at the end where he's a little more comical, like when he's doing his Spice Girls number, I can't picture the toy maker doing that. But I can picture Neil Patrick Harris doing that, if that makes sense. Everything up to where when he pretty much leaves, when he wins the second game with him cutting is good, but everything from the music number afterwards, the toy maker feels a little off, even though he still performed really well. The games that they play being so simplistic is a little disappointing. I mean, cutting the deck and catch. Now, the cutting the deck I get, because the 14th Doctor is actually very clever there. He knew he had a 50-50 chance of winning the game. But cutting, he made it a 50-50 chance. If he won, he could banish the toy maker. If he lost, he still had the ace up his sleeve of, well, I've won one, you've won one, best 2 out of 3. So it's actually really clever for him to pick a game where he at least has a 50-50 chance of winning, knowing the toy maker will not cheat, which we're assuming the toy maker didn't cheat. So I actually like that in the context of the Doctor stacked the deck in his favor. In it's a 50-50 split. If he wins, he can banish the toy maker. If he loses, he can still say, but I won the game long ago. You won the game now. And we all know there's one invariable rule, best of 3. So he really hedged his bets. It's really clever. And then, of course, the game of catch at the end is... I just don't really get it. The stakes never feel as high as I felt them, as I thought they would feel here. And then the fact that Neil Patrick Harris loses simply because he misses the ball. And that weird way the camera tracks this shot where he just misses. He just kind of misses it out. The bit with the tooth is interesting, even if it's a retread of the woman picking up the ring at the end of Last of the Time Lords. I did love hearing all the different masters laughing. That was pretty cool. But yeah, the toy maker never quite lived up to the threat he was made out to be, because they had already blown up the satellite and stopped what was going on with the world by that point. The bi-generation I was fine with personally. I didn't mind it. I think it gives Doctor Who fans a lot of options to choose how they want to proceed. If you don't like Modern Who, if you're kind of sick of Doctor Who, then this is your out. You can say that your Doctor, the proper Doctor, has gone off to retirement. That David Tennant's Doctor is retiring. He's relaxing. Maybe he becomes the Curator. We know the Curator is a future retired version of the Doctor. Maybe this is the Curator, or the Doctor who later becomes the Curator. Meanwhile, the new Doctor, that if you're one of those people, it's like, the young folks can have their new Doctor. He's off doing their thing, and since he's not your Doctor anymore, he's like an offshoot of your Doctor, if you want to think of it that way. You don't have to worry about following it anymore. Or if you're someone who's new to the show, like a Gen Z person or someone just stumbling onto it who wants your start with this Doctor to be season 1 of the new series, you don't have to catch up on all this backstory because that Doctor's kind of retired and this is a different Doctor. Again, personally, I think they're both the Doctor. The Doctor literally just split into 2 entities, like an amoeba splitting. So I consider them both the Doctor proper. But it's nice that people have options to make up their mind how they want to do it. Also, these special effects in this episode look really good. It's nice to see Mel back. It's nice to see Kate back. And I think it's a nice ending. I enjoyed the giggle well enough. We'll see where it fares down the road. This is where it falls for now. Oh, also, I do love the scene when it incorporates the old footage, right when the Doctor realizes it's the toy maker, and it shows that colorized version of footage from the Celestial Toy Maker. I did like that. Not just the footage, but the music that plays there. That's a really nice scene. I like that scene. Next on the list is Knock Knock. Now, this is the one I mentioned. I was surprised I had this one higher than Silence in the Library. But my last rewatch of Knock Knock, I really enjoyed it. It just has this feel to it. One, I love just watching Bill and the 12th Doctor talk. I love the kind of relationship they have, where she's like, this is my granddad. He's like, I'm not old enough to be your granddad. I enjoy the way they talk to each other in this episode. I like the guest cast well enough. They're not super memorable, but I like them well enough. I like the story of the house. Of course, I love the guy playing the landlord who also played Perot or whatever his name is. Agatha Christie's mustache detective. I know he's famous for that. He's also in the Wing Commander movie that's terrible, but he's in it. He does a really good job as playing that kind of creepy landlord. You know, there's something's off about how he keeps taking the tuning fork with the walls. That's pretty cool. I like that. The resolution of the story is okay. And the fact that everyone ends up surviving is a little bit of a cop-out. At least in Silence in the Library, people got killed. Although they kind of got brought back at the end, too, in a way like River did. But it feels like a little more of a cop-out here. But I still like it. It just, my last watch through of it, which was, I believe, just earlier this year, late last year, I really enjoyed it. Just had a nice feel to it, and that's why it's ranked higher. Next on the list is The Snowmen. I obviously like this one a lot with it being placed this high. I like this version of Clara. This is probably my favorite version of Clara. I just feel like she's written well. I just click with her more. I love Matt's outfit he wears, that kind of more winter version of his outfit that he wears here with the hat. I enjoy that a lot. I love Richard E. Grant in this. I think he's great as Dr. Simeon or whatever he's playing. And I enjoy the story. Does it retcon the Great Intelligence origin story? Yes, but it doesn't really bother me, probably because this was my first episode experiencing the Great Intelligence. I knew it was a classic Who villain, but I hadn't seen Web of Fear or Abominable Snowmen the first time I saw this. So there was no retconning really involved for me. I'm fine with this origin story. I think it's a good origin story. I like the idea of potentially a figment of a child's imagination becoming stronger than the child, and but you know, it's, instead of your imaginary friend being subject to your whim, it becomes the other way around. You become subject to the imaginary friend's whim. That's fascinating to me. That's a fascinating concept. I like it. I like how the snowmen themselves can form and eat everybody. Their design's really cool. You said you were having us for dinner. Yes, I said having you for dinner, or whatever it is he says there. I love that line. The ice woman in the lake is pretty cool. Now, how the Victorian Clara dies is kind of weird. The TARDIS doors just happen to be open and she followed them up the ladder. It seems very much the Doctor's fault for not taking a little more precautions, like pulling the ladder up or whatever, or closing the TARDIS doors, or nobody noticed she was there. That's a little, honestly, but other than that, it's pretty cool. The finale was pretty neat, how she manages to save him. I enjoy it. It's not like a normal Christmas story. It's got a darker edge to it, which I like. Something about the tone is a little darker, like the darker side of a Christmas story, which I like. This one's a lot of fun. Richard E. Grant does a lot to sell this one, and Jenna Coleman's putting in a good performance as this version of Clara. Next on the list is The Ghost Monument. I've made no secret of the fact I love this one. One of the reasons is the guest cast are good. The main male person trying to win the race and the main female person trying to win the race, they're both really good. I like the actors playing both of them a lot. And then the guy who's kind of hosting the race that appears as a hologram in the tent, he's really good. All three of those characters do a lot for me to enjoy this episode. The Doctor's kind of... Whitaker's in the role. The companions are, you know, Yaz using a gun, and the Doctor like, no, we don't use guns. When I'm like, Doctor, you've used guns. So, again, a little moral ambiguity from her there. I love the bandages. I've talked about this before. I love the bandages that like just kind of come alive on their own at night, that are almost these sentient beings. I've talked about before how it reminds me of a Thundercats episode. Bandages. Where Lion-O gets attacked by living bandages that try to basically turn him into a mummy. I enjoyed that a lot. I'm a huge Thundercats fan. I have a bunch of Thundercat figures just out of camera range. It's one of my favorite cartoons as a kid. So that I have a nostalgic attachment to the Ghost Monument because of that link, if that makes sense. I enjoy the fact the water is deadly. When they find out the water is like acid and deadly, it's a shame they didn't do more with that, because that's just kind of a thing that's mentioned and then never touched on again, but it's a neat concept. I would like to have seen it gone further with that. I love the fact the TARDIS is the Ghost Monument, and that it had been there for so long, it had become legend of it appearing like a ghost or a specter, where people didn't know what it was. I figured out quickly it was the TARDIS. Before they revealed it was the TARDIS, I'm like, I bet it's the TARDIS. So that was cool that it was. I liked that. Didn't really care for the robots chasing him. The robot design was just kind of naff, but generic robot design. Nothing, can't hold a candle to the robots from Robots of Death, that's for sure. But I enjoy this one. It's not like essential Doctor Who, but I enjoy it. That, and when we see the new TARDIS, it never really gives us a good wide shot look of the new TARDIS. I don't recall. I still remember being very confused at the end of the episode. Okay, what's this thing look like? Not a fan of that TARDIS interior, but a good episode. Next on the list is Cold War. The other Ice Warriors episode. My favorite Ice Warriors episode. This one is fun. Matt Smith's putting in a good performance. We see the return of the TARDIS's emergency get the heck out of there system. I forget what it's called. That was in the Crotons. That was pretty neat. We saw it again in Wild Blue Yonder. I love that this is basically a base under siege story in a claustrophobic area, with it being on a submarine with something running around loose. There's a lot of horror you can get out of that. It doesn't really lean into that way, but it's pretty neat, the concept. So I like how they're trapped in this cramped little submarine. The guy playing the captain is really good, who I know is from Game of Thrones. He's really, really good in this. I love what it does with the Ice Warrior. It doesn't update their design. It incorporates it, with it basically confirming that the armor is just that, armor, and that they can get out of it. They just don't, because it's generally a dishonorable thing for them to do. That's cool. I love the fact that the Ice Warrior, while in armor, looks like a traditional Ice Warrior. I love that a lot. And then I like his design when he's out of the armor and how he can slither around more like a lizard almost and hide up in vents and stuff and reach down and snatch people. I absolutely love that. It's a nice take on the Ice Warriors, and it works for me. I'm not as keen necessarily on the CGI design of the Ice Warrior out of his makeup. It's okay. It's okay. It's not bad. It's okay. I like the fact that the Ice Warrior is written as kind of a noble character, though. The way he is written in the story, I like. It doesn't make him out just to be the bad guy. He's doing what he's doing for a reason. There are noble intentions there, like a code he goes by. I like that, which is very evident at the end of the episode. I love the fact we get to see the Doctor use the red setting on the Sonic. I do love that a lot, right there at the end. I also enjoy the fact it's got David Warner in it. We get David Warner in Doctor Who proper. I love that. The fact that we did get an episode with him. And he's so much fun in that one. I really, really love him. Him with his 80s music. I love that. It's a really good, underrated episode. Best Ice Warriors episode they've ever done. Next on the list is Robots of Sherwood. This one is a lot of fun. I like this one. It's fun. It's adventurous. It's exciting. It's a great filler episode. I like the cast. The guy playing Robin Hood is good. I love the banter between Robin Hood and the 12th Doctor. The 12th Doctor actually has a lot of really amusing parts, really funny parts in this and lines, which is interesting because this is the more serious Am I a Good Man Series 8 12th Doctor, who isn't supposed to be funny. But the way Capaldi is playing the straight man is still funny because Capaldi's such a good actor. And he's so good in the role of the Doctor because he understands the Doctor so well, being a fan of the show himself, that it still comes off as funny. Almost childish at times. This very grown adult Doctor comes off as very childish at times. Hartnell could do that occasionally too. And I love that, like when they're having the competition between shooting the arrows and the Doctor just gets frustrated and blows it up with the Sonic. I love that. I love that. When they're in chains and Clara, who is still good at this point, is basically having to scold them like a mom scolding children when they're arguing. Like when Robin Hood's like, well, you're an old man, I'll outlive you. And the Doctor's like, oh, well, if you think that's true, you'll find I have a certain genetic advantage. I love, like, children. And Clara's having to play mom and be like, don't make me separate you and put you in a different room. Different rooms. I love that. I love when the Doctor and Robin are sword fighting at the beginning, but the Doctor, I am the Doctor, and this is my spoon. And he beats him with the spoon, but he gets a little overconfident, and Robin grabs his leg and pulls him into the water. It has a lot of humorous bits. The story itself with the alien invasion is fine. Nothing to write home about, but fine. And then the woman at the end, who's the kind of female protagonist that's been helping the story, the reveal of who she is, I did not see coming. That was actually really well done. caught me off guard. Kudos to that. When the TARDIS teleports and she's standing there, I did not make that connection. That was really well done. This one is so much fun, and I love fun filler episodes like this. Next on the list is Deep Breath. I like Deep Breath a lot. This one grew on me. Like, I never disliked it. When I originally saw this one in theater, actually, because they aired the episode in theater when it premiered. I was actually on a date, first date actually, with a girl I ended up dating for over a year. And I liked this episode well enough. It was fine, but it's really grown on me over the years. Again, Capaldi gets some humorous lines in here. I love when he's talking to the T-Rex. It's like, oh, that's all right. That's usually how I pick up women. I will keep you safe. I love all of that. Like, when he's telling the Lady Vastra, you know, you don't want to do that. It'd be like dropping a piano on your head. Ready? Piano. And then it knocks him out. That's funny. When he wakes up and he looks at the door and he's like, not me. And then he looks out the window and he's like, me. I love all of that stuff. I like the cinematography of this episode is really, really good. I love how well it's directed. Clara's a little weird in this one. I don't like Clara because Clara has so much trouble accepting he's the Doctor. Doesn't make sense because Clara has met all of the previous Doctors, all of them. She's interacted with all of the Doctors. Clara should understand more than any companion ever about regeneration, about him becoming a new man, about it still being the same person, because she has all that knowledge. She should be able to understand that. So it doesn't make sense for her to be struggling to accept him as the Doctor. Now, it's done just so the plot can happen, so we can get that wonderful cameo at the end. But that's the way it's forced in there because that plot needs to happen, so we can get that fun cameo, which is great. But it doesn't make sense. And I get the fact she had a crush on Matt Smith's Doctor is kind of hurting her. He's gone. But she should understand that happens because she's interacted with all of them for when she was spread throughout his timeline. I like how it incorporates the Marie Antoinette, the sister ship to the Madame de Pompadour, whichever one it is. How it incorporates the idea of kind of what we got in the Girl in the Fireplace, but how it veers totally in a different direction with it. With the creatures trying to get home and trying to repair the ship and using humans in a way to do that. But while they have kind of similar origins, the two ships, the adventures those ships go on vary drastically. I like that this isn't a rehash of the Girl in the Fireplace. It does its own thing. The guy who's playing kind of the head robot is really good in this. I love, one, his performance is amazing, but two, the makeup used on him is really well done. And I love the Doctor basically doing the Ship of Theseus comparison with the broom. You know, is it still the same broom? I love the conversations between those two. Really, really good. And the fact it doesn't answer whether the robot jumped or whether he fell or whether he was pushed by the Doctor. That whole scene is really well done. I love the tease of Missy, because I love Michelle Gomez's Missy. I love the tease of her at the end. That's really well done. So it's got a few nitpicks that I can't quite think of at the moment, but I do like it a lot. And I do love that cameo at the end. It's kind of one of those things you're kind of surprised they've never done something like that before, but it really was nice to see. And I remember my face lighting up in theaters when I recognized the voice over the phone. I was like, that was pretty cool. I liked it. It's a good episode. Next on the list is Under the Lake and Before the Flood. One of the showpieces of Series 9. Now, I consider Series 9 to be a pretty weak season. There doesn't have a lot going for it. But one of the two and a half-ish things it does have going for it is Under the Lake and Before the Flood. This is a really solid story. This is yet another story that remembers that the Doctor is a time traveler and that things can happen out of order here. It sets up a really neat premise. Part 1 has a really good cliffhanger. And it is definitely one of those Doctor Who episodes that keeps you going, what the heck is going on? what is going on? I'm very confused. Why are these ghosts appearing? Why are they the ghosts of people who've been killed by other ghosts? Why are the ghosts now trying to kill the other people? And seeing the cause and effect of events, especially in part 2 when they go back to the past, which they go back to the past in some of part 1 too. You know, things that happen when they go back to the past, suddenly resulting in ghosts appearing in the future, that time is kind of changing to go with that, is really neat. I like the guest cast a lot. They're not quite the most memorable. I don't remember names, but the actors are doing good with what they have. The idea that it doesn't affect you until you read the wall is pretty neat. The design of the Fisher King is a cool design. The budget definitely looks there from this one. It has a very cinematic feel to it, especially at the end when everything is flooding. Seeing how everything got flooded like it is when we first get there. It's just a well-written, well-directed, well-executed, well-cast, well-performed story, and definitely one of the highlights of the Capaldi era. And the last one we're going to talk about today, The Haunting of Villa Diodati. I enjoyed this one. I keep meaning to go back and do a rewatch of this. I need to, but I liked it. It has atmosphere to it. It feels like a story where you meet Mary Shelley should feel. Creepy, horrific. Maybe horrific's not the right word, but it definitely has a horror theme to it. It's spooky, it's terrifying. It's another one of those, it makes you wonder what the heck's going on. Like when you walk out of a room and we're walking back into a room, you know, space is not operating properly. What is going on here? Now, I caught on to the fact it was a Cyberman thing because I saw that silhouette at one point and it kind of reminded me of the silhouettes from Army of Ghosts. So when it turned out to be the Lone Cyberman, I was kind of like, Cyberman, I had that right. It introduces the Lone Cyberman. I really liked the Lone Cyberman. I wish we'd gotten more of him. The actor who plays him has done really well. His design is done really well. And he's a nice, unique, new take on the Cyberman. He is just a good character. I like the idea of a Cyberman being a threat. Much like how one Dalek can be a threat. I like the idea that one Cyberman can be this kind of threat. And that you don't quite know what to expect from him because he is a very emotional Cyberman. That's a fascinating idea. I think the performances are good. I think Whitaker's putting in a good performance. I think all of the companions are putting in good performances. I love the speech when the Doctor's like, you have to understand, this isn't a level playing field. I'm the one in charge, or whatever she says, you know, but I'm the one at the top. You know, when she's stressing to them that you need to listen to me, I'm the boss. I enjoy that scene. When we kind of see the after effects of what the Cybermen did to Bill affecting her here, when she wants to make sure she keeps the Cybermen safe. So you feel like, more so than other Cybermen stories, she's a little more nervous going up against a Cyberman because of what happened to Bill and the fact that she still hasn't gotten over that. I like that as well. The bit when she sees Percy Shelley see the future briefly of him drowning, I don't really care for that. That's a terrible thing to do to somebody, knowing what his fate's going to be. The idea that the Lone Cyberman is kind of the inspiration for Frankenstein is neat, although we also know the 8th Doctor travels with Mary Shelley too in the audio adventures. It has a good ending. I don't like the fact that the Doctor kind of had to sacrifice all of the future for the present with the Cyberminium or whatever to let it go. I feel like the Doctor should have found a way to avoid that. But it's a nitpick. It's a really well executed episode, I think. So, that's the end of part 3. Next time on part 4, we'll talk about the top 30 stories. I want to know what you think of the list so far. Comment down below and let me know. Don't forget to click the like button and the subscribe button as well. I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me on that. There's a link to that. Whew, breathe, Prowl. There's a link to that down in the description below. I want to give a shout out to some of my top tier patrons, Stephen Crane, Colin Coney, and Finn Perkins. I do appreciate their continued support, as I do the support of all of my patrons. It does make a difference, and it is appreciated. I also have YouTube memberships available. My P.O. box is down there if there's anything you'd like me to check out and review. I also have links to my Amazon wish list down there as well. Most importantly, thank you for watching.